For the longest time, my bio was just everything has eggs. If the outside looks nice, but the product itself is not great, nobody's going to come back. All happy memories, somehow or the other, have food attached to it. I can pinpoint all my favorite places or my favorite trips or my favorite memories based on that meal. To be very, very blunt, and this is something that I don't think a lot of kids know because entrepreneurs don't talk about it, it's privilege. Quite literally, it was my father passing away.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you said nail in the coffin, and I was like, don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh.
3, 2, 1, yeah!
Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you have imagined.
And the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work.
Courage is not doing things in the absence of fear. Courage is doing things despite the fear.
Growth comes from consistent action.
And you're realizing, hey, I'm not the only one with these problems.
Welcome to the latest episode of the BYOB podcast. I'm very excited to have Flavia with us today. Thanks for making it.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I always research and try and figure out how I'm going to do an introduction to each guest. And so I spent about 10-15 minutes trying to put together the perfect, one-liner or two-liner. And then I realized I should have just started by looking at your Instagram, and I looked at it, and you've done in one line what I definitely couldn't have done in 20, where you basically, I think your one-liner says, "Memories and Cakes" by Flavia Lewis, which I think is just such a fantastic introduction into what you do.
Thank you. That took 3 years, by the way. For the longest time, my bio was just everything has eggs.
Wow.
Don't ask me
Big
if
improvement.
anything is eggless.
Big improvement. I think so. Lots of entrepreneurs find it very hard to explain what they do really simply. So how did you come up with Memories and Cakes by Flavia Lewis?
I think when you start something new and you're working on it and you have to go through talking to people so many times, this is what I do, this is what I do, this is what I do. So memories, that one line is basically a completely condensed version of maybe a 10-minute conversation that I'll have with someone. And I'm like, okay, this makes sense. I can't actually talk to each and every one of you. So if I had to put it down in one line, this is it. It came with time.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I got there finally.
Yeah, it's really cool and so memorable. So thank you. I feel like I should have, like I said, gone there first. I would have saved myself 15 minutes. But anyway, thank you so much for being here today. I am looking forward to, I think, getting to know you even better. Hopefully, I hear some things that I don't know about you. So I've got a bunch of questions ready for you as well.
Excited.
I think the second thing is, inspired by your Instagram profile, is there's this little link that you've put on Instagram now, which says featured on GQ as one of the 5 best home bakers in Bombay right now. So firstly, congratulations. That's something worth bragging about. And secondly, how did that happen? Can you tell me how you're feeling about being featured there as well?
So, Salt started during COVID and everybody was at home, which is why even when we moved out of the house and we've grown, we've had to constantly pivot because there was one model that worked for us for COVID that does not work anymore. But that is the only model we knew. So during COVID in Colaba, everybody was ordering cake. There were 2 things that were happening. 1, everybody was ordering cake, and 2, everybody was on their phone. So ordering stuff, at least pre-ordering stuff, was much easier. And because everybody was at home, because everybody wanted cake, it was, it just like, I think it reached the right people. And even to date, everything about us is very minimal when it comes to everything, not the cake, like the packaging, the boxes, everything. We don't spend that much or invest that much on the packaging because if the outside looks nice but the product itself is not great, nobody's going to come back. So clearly the product is working. There is something that people enjoy about it, which they're coming back for, which again brings me back to memories and cake, because every single thing that we have on the menu is related to a memory for me,
Oh,
right?
can you tell
And
me a bit more about that? What do you mean?
so all happy memories somehow or the other have food attached to it. And it's the feeling you get. So, say for example, you have a memory of chocolate cake. If I can make something for you that when you eat it reminds you of that memory or makes you feel the same way you did then, I've done my job.
Gotcha.
So there are like these little, like, I would call them like glow points inside people, when they eat something it just becomes yellow
Oh,
and
that's so
happy.
beautiful.
That's what I want to touch on, because that's what food does for me. I can pinpoint all my favorite places or my favorite trips or my favorite memories based on that meal. So half the job is already done. Like, I know what makes you happy. I need to make you feel like that again.
Sure.
So that's how it moved.
So you've told us quite a bit about, why the memories and cake, and it's a beautiful explanation. I don't know if you watched it, but it reminded me of. Did you watch Inside Out, the Disney movie from years ago?
I did, I did,
Yeah.
I
So when
did.
you were
I
saying,
actually watched it this month.
oh really? Okay, me too. So those glow points you were talking about, it made
Yeah,
me think
yeah, the
about
core
like those
memories.
characters,
Yeah,
right
yeah.
in Inside Out as well. So really beautiful. I want to know, however, how you go from wanting to make memories and these beautiful things to getting featured on GQ. I'm going to stick with it, even though it might make you feel uncomfortable.
I
How
don't
did you go
know.
get featured over
I
there? How
don't know.
did it work?
I honestly, I don't know. I mean, it was a period of people calling and saying, "Hi, we'd like to write about you. Can we?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, but why do you want to write about me?" So I've just gone with it. I'm like, but why me? Like, I feel there's lots of imposter syndrome.
Sure.
I know what I'm doing is legit. I know it's great, but I think because of the exposure we have on all social media platforms, this is, this person's famous, this person is doing this person is doing that. When somebody wants to add you to that, it takes some time to adjust, to reconcile with the fact that, oh, okay,. I'm doing something right. PQ, CN Traveler, a lot of, like, all of them just came one by one, and they're also clients, makeup artists and photographers, stylists, they're clients.
Oh, and I'm guessing that's how it's probably got. But that must make you feel really nice, right? Like, don't you
Yeah, of
feel
course, it makes me feel very happy. I also really really like it when old people like my cake,
why? Why
because
do you specifically like that?
they're very difficult to keep happy. Very, very difficult. So when parents will say, or when kids will be like, "Listen, we got this for our father's birthday or my mother's birthday, or the grandparents really liked it," that makes me feel really happy. Like, okay, this is working, because younger people are, even if they don't like something, they'll be like, "Yeah, I liked it,"
Sure.
or they'll order it again just to save face. But old people can be mean.
Yeah, that's for
Old people
sure.
can be very mean. So if they don't like something, they don't like it.
One of the things you mentioned while you were talking through this is that there's a little bit of imposter syndrome. And instead of going, for the next 20 minutes and then coming to this, I think we should dive right into it straight away. Because as an entrepreneur, I feel like I have it all the time. And I think the only difference is what degree of imposter syndrome you're having at any
Yeah.
particular point in time. That's the only thing that shifts. But can you talk a little bit more about what this imposter syndrome means to you and how it shows up to you, how it impacts you as an entrepreneur?
So starting with the basic thing, things don't always go very well. Yeah, this is for entrepreneurs and for salaried people. You have ups, you have downs. But when we have downs, we're not sure if we'll get that monthly salary, because we don't get it anyhow. Right? So that is where it all starts for me. Sometimes I just wish that I would get a monthly salary and I didn't have to worry about things. It also comes to the fact that now that entrepreneurship is such a big thing, there are levels of entrepreneurs, big levels of entrepreneurs, and some people are doing massive things that I don't even understand. Forget about trying to understand. And that's when you think that, okay, I also have a business, but is it a business if it's in the same league as this? You know, it's like a shark and then a tiny little fish, and you're like, but there's a shark here. You know, am I relevant? In your own little pond, you're relevant. That's great. But the minute the shark comes in, you start thinking, you know, like you seem so much smaller now. So that is something that I have to go on with. And I think as the business grows, the validation also comes, but there will always be somebody bigger than me.
Always a bigger shark.
So that's something that I think I just have to make my peace with at some point, that I'm happy being this fish.
And do you?
I keep when this happens, I look to where I used to be and where I am. Like, for example, today I was at the bank. I wanted a credit card, and they said, "Aapka ITR kya hai?" and this and that, and I'm just like, bro, I never thought I'd leave my house kitchen.
Sure.
I have employees now. You know, so even if I don't qualify for your credit card, I have come a long way in 3 years, and this makes sense to me. Like, I can sit and look back, and there's enough validation that I can give myself. So when these things happen, like, where do you work? Oh, you're not salaried. Oh, business. That is, it's I mean, kudos. They're finally giving us credit cards. It was a salary slip was a prerequisite for a very long time.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's something that you deal with. It's something that you just have to accept. Because, like you said, there will always be a bigger shark. So if you're looking at the sharks and you're not looking at yourself, then you'll keep feeling small.
Oh, that's beautiful. So when you're feeling like, oh no, there's a big shark, and you're feeling like a small fish, do you know that that's what you're feeling, and you're instantly able to go into, okay, but look how far I've come? Or does it take you time to go from, oh no, I'm an imposter, tiny fish, to, oh, okay, 3 days later, I figured it out?
It depends. Like, if my Excel sheet for the day or for the month is doing very well, I'm just like, I brush it off. Like, it does not matter. But if it's a slow month, or people are not ordering, or I'm just like, we had only 2 orders today, then it gets to you, you know. So if you are starting in a strong place, it's easier to get through. But if you're starting at a slightly weaker or more fragile state, it's easier for it to affect you. But in retrospect, so talking about it really helps. I have a lot of friends that are also entrepreneurs, some of which are also chefs. Our lives seem like they're fun, and we do a lot of things, but it's painful.
Sure.
Yeah, so that helps, that knowing that, okay, life sucks for the bigger sharks also sometimes.
Got it.
You know, that makes me feel better.
Got it. Do you find yourself actively seeking out these comparisons? Do you find yourself scrolling and looking at what these amazing,
No.
quote unquote sharks, or do they just come at you on social media, and that's when you think,
They come at me on social media, and I don't think it's really that their fault. Also, it is what it is. But it doesn't affect me anymore. Just to digress a little bit, like, sometimes when I think, I had a business before this. It was called Flavia's Confectionery. It was in Goregaon. I lived in Goregaon. I had a kitchen in Goregaon, which I closed in 2 years. And from 2017 to 2020, if anybody asks me, why don't you go back to food? I think food is what, you know, makes you happy, and that would work for you. My constant thing was, I tried it and it didn't work. When I see where I am today and what my menu is like, and how I work and how I think and how I taste, it's very different from the person that I used to be 10 years ago. So that the fact that all this is coming at me now doesn't really bother me so much. Person wise, entrepreneur wise, it does get to me a little menu wise still. Like, should we be doing this? Should we be doing this? Should we be doing this? But I think, in those times, it helps to again remember that everything on the menu is there for a reason. So if I can't sell it to myself, if I can't sell that idea to myself, it doesn't need to be there. This has been briefed to our chefs also in the kitchen, that we want new things. We need to brainstorm. We need to do more work. But whatever idea you come up with, you have to sell it to me. I need to know that it means something to you enough that you want to actually have it on the menu. Just because somebody else is doing it is not a good enough reason.
You talked a little bit about your previous venture into entrepreneurship in the same space. And so I definitely want to go a bit deeper into that. So, can you tell me a little bit about what do you do now that you didn't do then, and that's why you think things are working now? Or what are things you learned at that point that you now never ever will do again? Like, what were some horrendous mistakes you made, last time around that you don't think you'll
Yeah.
commit again?
Yeah, the biggest thing, the biggest difference that in who I am today and what the business is today versus what it used to be is boundaries.
Okay.
Biggest thing is boundaries. I don't know whether everybody, like all customers, have a little bit of masochism in them, but the minute you put boundaries down, you're like, no, this is it. They somehow respect you more. I found it very weird. I'm like, well, if you would have asked me nicely from the beginning, we could have reached here the same. We didn't have to. I didn't need to be mean to you, but it is what it is now. If this is what they're going to be like, then yeah. So boundaries is one thing that is a very very big difference in how I used to be and how I am. Another difference with how things used to be and how things are now is, like I mentioned earlier with the menu. Earlier, I was always looking at what other people were doing, what was selling, what was available, and I would try and do the same thing. But 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, you realize that if I am doing the same thing, why are they going to come to me? So everything on our menu is something that you cannot get somewhere else. So once that memory is created for you, once you have that feeling when you eat something from us, you know that the next time you want to feel like that again, you have to eat the same thing. And that's basically, I think, how it's working. That something we've made is making you feel a certain way, and sometimes you want to feel that way, and luckily you can buy that feeling.
Nice. So these are two, right? You said boundaries with
Yeah,
clients and then reasons for items to be on the menu.
yeah.
I'm just going to push you one level further, which is when you decide
Sure.
to wind up your previous business, what
Mm.
was the final, the, as they call it, final nail in the
Nail in the
coffin,
coffin.
right? Like why did you end up making that decision? Because it's not an easy decision to make, I'm sure.
I probably shouldn't laugh, but quite literally, it was my father passing away.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you said nail in the coffin, and I was like, don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what it was, because we also have a farm that's on the outskirts of Bombay, and my idea always was to probably run that and have something happening there. So when he passed away, and he passed away when I was 25, so I have a younger sister. So my mother said, okay, he's done now. Why don't you move there? Why don't you handle that? And I
Right.
said, okay, I'll do that. I just felt like a child, bouncing from one thing to the other,
Sure.
not adult at all, not equipped to be dealing with these big business things. My younger sister handles that now, the farm.
Wow.
And during COVID, I started this, which has taken off. It is reached where it is right now. Yeah, so that was the deciding factor for me. Another difference, sorry, I just remembered, between how things were then and how things are now is, I feel like then, if somebody said, I think you should do this, I think you should do this, I think this is what your business needs, I did it.
Right.
Now when people say it right from the beginning, yeah, from scratch, maybe because I came in a little apprehensive, like, burnt once. Irrespective of what people were saying to me, I said, unless it feels right, I'm not going to do it. Like, I remember in the beginning, when I was taking orders, I did it in a diary. And my therapist at that time, she said, I think you need Excel. And I don't need Excel. I'm fine with my notebook.
Sure.
And then we moved to Excel. And then, I think you need a space. No, I don't need a space. We moved to a space. I think you need a bigger space. Move to a bigger space. I think you need a team. I know what they're saying. It makes sense to me. I can see it. But unless I feel that it's right. Because if it doesn't work, I need to be able to back myself up.
Sure.
The person who told me to do it is not going to be standing there. And I have learned that the hard way.
It feels almost like there's more conviction now in your own
Yeah,
decisions than there was back then.
yeah,
Much
more.
Yeah. Which I imagine is a sense of comfort, right? That, okay, I'm going to make the call at the end of the day.
It is very scary also, because then you think, should I be doing it? Why am I not doing it? But so far, for Salt, touch wood, in the last 3 years, everything has fallen into place when it needed to, at the right time. So at any point when I think maybe I shouldn't have done this, or maybe we should do this, and I just wait. At some point, it will make sense.
Sorry, I'm just very curious about this, right? Because I feel like there are so many, and you're a great example of so many different type of entrepreneurs, right? And you're guiding the guiding light for each entrepreneur is so different. So please tell me if I'm wrong, but it feels to me like the feeling and time is something you're sort of almost like in flow as you make these decisions.
Yeah.
Am I sort of getting it wrong? Can anything knock you off course? Can like no, you're
Okay, let me
like
give you an
your
example.
decisions. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let me give you an example. We moved out of the house. I moved to a kitchen. It was small. I hired people. We were working there. And the space, like one garage away, opened up. The landlord was getting it done, was getting it renovated. And I'm just like, the rent is double. The space is also double. Have we maximized the space we're in currently? No.
Okay.
But if I don't do this now, I may not get the opportunity again. So business-wise, it may not have been the smartest thing to do.
Sure.
But it felt right. So even when I did speak to other people, I spoke to my partner, I spoke to the other chefs, I spoke to the rest of the team, and the main questions were, do you need it? Do you need it? Can you afford it? And I said, I feel like we need to be pulled out and put somewhere else. And this is the only way to do it. We were very restricted in that space. My brain felt restricted.
Sure.
This is it's an easier space. It's flatter. It's not vertical. It's like this. So we can see each other. We can communicate. My team is happier there. There's more space. That the feeling of being a unit is a lot more visible here, as opposed to, you sit upstairs, you're the boss, we work downstairs. That does not work anymore. That's so once I do set my mind on something, it takes a lot to get me off.
Yeah,
but also when I'm stubbornly against something, it's difficult again to change my mind.
So I think, Flavia, one of the things I'm sure people listening in have a question. So there are lots of home bakers around, right? With COVID, there was an explosion of home bakers,
Correct.
people who could share their sweet treats or otherwise and make a lot of people happy, and they got into it. We have a few in our community and beyond who I've spoken to as well, who are on the edge where they've been home baker for a while, but it's very tough for them to think about, oh, I need an established space, or take whatever it is that next level is in their business, because in their minds we are home baker, right? Like that's who we
Correct.
are as people. What helped you go from, okay, I'm home baker, to now I'm gonna get the space? What that first big push or big move to say, okay, it's a serious thing now? What made you make that?
To be very, very blunt, and this is something that I don't think a lot of kids know, because entrepreneurs don't talk about it, it's privilege.
Okay.
Like, deal with it. Like, acknowledge that privilege. Everybody doesn't have it, and everybody who has it doesn't use it. But if you do have it, please use it. Second thing for me, why I moved out, was because the work got to a point where I couldn't do it alone, and I did not want to let somebody else into my space.
Private space. Okay.
Yeah, which is why I moved out. But for example, I went to Xavier's, so my entrepreneurship professor has called me back a couple of times to talk to the kids. And the first time she did it, I was like, okay, fine, yeah, I'll talk to them. The second time she did it, I wasn't doing anything. So I said, why do you want me to come? And she said, they need to know that it doesn't always work.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Their heads are in the clouds.
Hmm.
They think, yeah, I'll be an entrepreneur. Yeah, I'll make so much money. Yeah, I'll have my own hours. But all of it works the other way also. Some months you don't make money. Some months you don't sleep. It can be very scary and very tiring. So having that privilege greatly helps. If it also works without the privilege if you have complete conviction in what you're doing, because then you can rightly use somebody else's money. I don't know how that works because I feel like that is too big of a risk for me. Yeah, but acknowledge that privilege completely.
I'm really glad you said this, and I don't know if it's something we've deep dived into in any of our previous interviews, but I definitely felt it, right? So when people ask me, oh, wow, you had high paying job in London. Why did you come back? How did you come back? All of these things. And that was one of my answers, which is when I came back, it's not like I was going to be on the streets. I had
Correct.
family
You could afford
set
to.
stuff up. I could afford it. I knew that in the first year when I come back, if I don't earn money, yes, I might not be able to have the most luxurious lifestyle, but I'll have a very comfortable lifestyle, right? It's going to be fine. And that was something that enabled me. But
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who feel, and I totally understand it as well because I felt it in bits, is they feel an immense amount of guilt attached with privilege, and therefore they decide not to use the privilege to try and keep some of that guilt away and say, well, it wasn't because of my privilege. I still worked hard. I decided to do it. So, do you feel sometimes that guilt, or are you now in a place where you're comfortable with where you are and you know how you
I,
use it?
I don't feel that guilt at all because I'm working hard.
Sure.
I'm not working any less than I would be if it was somebody else's money. Luckily, I had it available, so I used it. But to, speaking to those people who do feel that guilt, if you don't take the money, then what? It's just going to sit there. You might as well use it, no? You not feeling guilty is helping no one.
Yeah.
Go to therapy, work with your
Sort it out
conscience,
then.
sort it out there. That's somebody else's job. Use that money for a therapist. But I mean, how long will you be scared? If you need to know if it works or it doesn't work, the only way to find out is actually to do it.
Yeah.
You can keep struggling, and it's great. I'm all for hard work. People with the privilege also put in that work, most of us. But if you don't take it, nobody's giving you a medal. So what is the point? Like I don't see the point. I am able to sleep at night because I know that I took that X and I'm making it Y.
Yeah.
If you take X and you're sitting with X or you've gone to minus X, then yes, you feel guilty.
I'm quite curious. Firstly, I'm really, I think this professor at Xavier's is very cool to call you back for the purpose of, hey, it doesn't always work out.
Yeah.
I have a question I'm very curious about is, did you find the second time you went to talk about, your journey as an entrepreneur, and this time you're talking about it not quite working out, did you sense people receiving you differently in the class, or do you feel the students got it and they understood and they could connect with it?
No, I didn't feel a sense of difference, but I don't think they got it either. I mean, if you tell a 19-year-old your idea is shit, it's not going to work, the 19-year-old is not going to listen to you.
Sure.
They didn't care, quite honestly. They didn't care. So I had a great time dissecting all their projects, saying, hello, this makes no sense in the real world.
Okay.
I had a great time, but they still had a lot of hope. I'm like, go for it, guys. Go for it. You'll find out.
Sure.
It may work. Who knows? It may work. It may not work.
Okay. We talked about
like nobody can tell them. Nobody can tell them and nobody can. I think the right word is convince them.
Sure.
Because as much experience as I have, and I'm coming up from a place of I don't think this will work, there is a slight chance that it might.
Yeah.
So if you want to be that mad person and make it work, go for it.
Yeah.
I will clap.
Yeah. I guess it's as long as you're willing to put the work in And you don't
Correct.
expect because of your mad idea the world's going to bow down to you and everything's going to be great. I think
Nothing.
that's fine.
Nothing works easily, not because of your mad idea, because of your concept, because of the money you have, because of the contacts you have. Nothing is going to work if you're not going to be there on the ground constantly. Till I hired a team, when I moved to the new space, it was very difficult for me to hire people when I wasn't comfortable working there first. So for the first 4 months, I did everything: washing, production, deliveries, everything. And then I burnt out, and I'm like, okay, now we will stop till we have people.
Sure.
So we've all gone through that. We're always scrubbing something or the other. There are a lot of things that take a back seat, but these are choices you make.
So can you tell me about a choice that you recently made that you think either has led to incredible results or given you a terrible result? Like, because the reason I ask this is because entrepreneurs always have to make choices. That's like every day, every minute you're making a decision or a choice, right? To do X or not do Y, or invest in this or not, or have this conversation or whatever it is. So what's a recent decision that you've made that was one end of the spectrum?
My health, both ends of the spectrum. I'm diabetic. For the longest time, I just didn't care. I would eat when I could. I would eat what I could, which is not the healthiest. You have to have smaller meals, better nutrition, eat often. I didn't bother about these things, and I landed myself in a horrible place. And the last meeting that I had with my doctor, I went to her literally and I said, I can't do this alone. I need help. And she said, do you want to take this tablet after breakfast or after lunch? And I'm like, I will take it when you tell me to take it.
Sure.
I went very defeated. I was exhausted because even making a decision like that, when it came to making that decision for myself, it took a back seat. If I had to make that decision at work, I would have done it like that.
Sure.
So this month, I have taken those steps to use my days off with doctor's appointments, maybe working out, maybe eating better, tracking what I'm eating. It has made a very big difference.
Sure.
Very, very big difference. So yeah, both ends of the spectrum. And it's possible to do everything. It really is, because I don't think I'm doing any less work now while paying attention to myself than I was doing last month when I was not paying attention to myself.
Sure.
Ulta, I feel that there is more energy and clarity now to be able to do this. Like there's more fuel, you know? But I think I'm knowing myself, I will probably hit a spot again where everything will just fall and I'm like, I can't do it. But we'll continue till we hit that place.
Okay, we've talked about a lot of deep stuff, so I'm gonna just lighten the mood a little bit. We have a little segment we call Jaldi with Jigsaw. And so I'm gonna
Okay.
ask you a bunch of rapid fire questions where I don't want you to think deeply at all and just give me your gut instinct answer.
My thoughts are not deep at all. My thoughts are stuck in Karan Johar right now.
Yeah, okay. So you can give me those type of answers then. Okay, are you ready with Jaldi with Jigsaw?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What do you think your superpower is as an entrepreneur?
Shit, I was not prepared for this.
No, you're not meant to have prepared, otherwise it would defeat the purpose. So you're okay.
I think I can make tough calls.
Okay,
When shit hits the fan, I am able to be sane.
got it. What's the latest show you binge watched?
Fleabag again.
Oh, what a great show. Okay, we have to talk about that later. One of my favorites.
Before that, also Adhura. I watched it twice.
What do you enjoy most about being your own boss?
Not having a boss.
And what do you find you hate most about being your own boss?
Confrontation.
Got it. If you weren't doing what you're doing right now, what do you think you'd be doing?
I want to be an archaeologist.
Wow. Okay, I've not heard that answer for a while. Okay, that's very cool. How do you switch off?
I don't.
Pity. How do you want to be remembered?
Happily.
That's sweet. Who is your biggest cheerleader?
I think my partner and my dogs.
What 3 words would you use to define a jigsaw thinker?
On time. It's not me, but everybody else. On time. curious, and busy.
Yeah, very busy. You're right. And finally, what is a piece of advice you would give to someone else just starting out their business?
Go for it. Whatever it is, just do it.
Yeah.
There's no other way you can find out. You think, and sometimes you don't do it. Just do it. And there are only two possible things that could happen. It could work or it could not. Literally.
Yeah, that's true. Well, thank you. You smashed Jaldi with Jigsaw very quickly. That was great. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, I have just maybe one, maybe two questions before we wrap up fully. And the first one is, I think you've been a Jigsaw thinker for a few months now. Can you
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about what you are taking away from the journey so far?
So there's one basic reason that I did sign up for this. It's because I felt like I was in a space where I needed something that I did not have in terms of skills. And I felt like having access to Jigsaw and having access to the other people with Jigsaw, having access to you would probably at least give me the option to be able to learn these things. Whether I do it or not, I have to do it. But it's there, it's available to me. That was the first thing. And the thing that I have found most valuable by being a part of Jigsaw is accountability. Like, even if it is Ayush texting me on the app, or if it is getting an email saying, today on Thinkerspace, it's always there in my head. Like, whether I show up or I don't show up, I'm thinking about it. So, you did your job.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm glad. And I think final question is, for the people who are listening in, if they want to interact with you or with your amazing memories and cakes, where can they find out more about you?
Instagram would be easiest. I handle the Instagram account. So if you send us a DM at Salt by Flavia, I will get in touch with you to take the process forward, whether that's to chat or that's regarding an order or it's just to eat. But yeah, that's the easiest way to get in touch with us. Like I mentioned, I am constantly on my phone.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for opening up about your journey. I think there's a lot of stuff that could very easily have been things you didn't talk about. So thank you so much for showing the courage and talking about it, because it's not just interesting for me, but I think it'll resonate with a lot of people on their journeys as well and help them. So thank you very much. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. We're Jigsaw Thinking, home of the self-starters. If you're interested in being your own boss, head to jigsawthinking.com or drop us a DM at Jigsaw Thinking on Instagram.